This is Healthcare Uprising. We are here to shine a light on the innovators implementing positive change in American healthcare and the patient experience stories, good and bad, that can help others navigate the sometimes overwhelmingly complex American healthcare system. Welcome to the Uprising. We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. All right. Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking into this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So what's on our agenda for today, Heather?
So today we're talking with Zara Hashemi. She is an AI scientist, entrepreneur, and a mom with a passion for using technology to make a difference in women's lives. We got another smart cookie here, Jeremy. No surprise. Yeah, they just keep coming. She holds a PhD in machine learning with her dissertation focused on applying ML for preventative healthcare. Zara spent 6 years at Apple as a tech lead and AI scientist, driving innovation and delivering impactful projects. Inspired by her personal experiences and driven by her passion for women's health, she founded Cybele Health, which we do find out what Cybele means, and it's a really cool story, which is an AI-powered platform designed to help women proactively manage their health and well-being.
All right. AI kind of freaks me out, so let's see where this conversation goes. Without further ado, here is our interview with Zara from Cybele Health.
Hi, and welcome to the Healthcare Uprising podcast. Zara, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So today we're meeting with Zara from Cybele Health. Can you first just tell us a little bit about your background, your experience, essentially what drove you to establish Cybele Health?
Sure, yeah. So my background has been by education and by profession in engineering. I did my undergrad in computer science, then my master's in AI and robotics. I come from a family of physicians and doctors, so I was always passionate about healthcare. And during my master's dissertation, we worked on some um, healthcare applications. Um, and then I was looking into different universities and grants and researches on the healthcare, the combination of healthcare and technology. So I found that a program that was a collaboration between UCLA School of Nursing and the School of Engineering in University of Missouri. And there was a big NIH grant that was running the whole project for being proactively monitoring healthcare using IoT technology and being more preventive. I love that because it was multidisciplinary in between the schools, and the papers that were coming out of that research was really fascinating. So I applied for that program. I got accepted. I started my PhD program as a CS student, but I worked a lot with doctors and nurses, and that was my first exposure as an engineer into the field of healthcare. And I love that. That dissertation was very fruitful. 15 applications came out of it, most of it in IEEE journals. One of them got selected as the cover of IEEE journal, which I'm always very proud of it. Um, but I was very focused on the technology side of it, meaning machine learning and AI. And then after graduation, I joined Apple as an AI scientist. I worked there at 6 years. Um, and during that time, it was really good to meet great minds, especially as in the big corporate like Apple. But I always was very passionate about how can I still like use the experience that I had in my PhD and apply that for healthcare specifically. And then pandemic happened in the meantime, and then we all went through so many health issues and challenges, which was the really pushing point for me to start think about it more seriously, especially on the women's health domain. As I was a mom, I was a new mom, and I faced lots of challenges in terms of how healthcare is approaching women's health specifically. So the last 2 years that I was at Apple, I was on the side also working on different ideas, prototyping and interviewing people from healthcare space. And then I finally made my decision to work on that full time. So I left Apple and I started my company, Cybele Health, which is focused on using AI and technology to proactively help women and provider stay ahead of the game. And instead of symptom management, we proactively plan our healthcare and build a healthier lifestyle.
I, I want to back up a little bit because I have questions, and I have a feeling Jeremy does too.
That was a lot.
Um, what is machine learning, and what is an AI scientist at Apple? What is that like? What does that mean? It sounds very
Sure.
exciting and
Yes.
mad
Um,
scientist.
so in general, computers run instructions. So you tell computer do X, Y, and Z in order, and then it does it for you. But it's very explicit. For example, if you want to say do 3 multiply 5, it does that by calculation. And another way is to like do the summation multiple times, right? So it's ordered and specifically instruction. Now, the whole field of AI is the idea that how can computers learn just like human learns without explicitly being instructed or programmed. That's the whole field of AI. So we want to be like create another human brain. And under it, there is a field of machine learning that uses a lot of statistical data analysis, and through that, enable computers to learn from data. So instead of saying that 2 times 3 is 6, we give them like different multiplication with their answers. And then we ask computer, can you learn from this? How do like get the result of that multiplication, for example? So learning from data. One example is like, if we give students a study hour and their score, can you predict for the coming semester what's going to be the students' score given their study hours? This is an example that I teach in my classes. Or given the house size and number of bedrooms and bathrooms and the selling point, can you predict what's going to be the new houses that are coming into the market, how much they are going to sell for? So these algorithms run mostly on statistical data analysis. Given the data that they have seen before and some guideline, they can predict. And these are machine learning. And then there are different ways to implement those algorithms. And one that has been recently been on the top is deep learning, which are based on neural network. And neural networks are how brain functions in terms of neurons and the combinations of those, and we have billions of those neurons that work together. So which is a different category. So it's called neural network, and then on top of that, if we make it really extensive, it becomes like deep neural network. And then generating data on top of that, like enabling computer to not only observe from data but generate new data, is Gen AI.
Wow.
So that's kind of the whole category of AI deep learning. And I was, as an AI scientist, I drove at Apple, when I was at Apple, I drove so many of these different algorithms and approaches and learning patterns for computers.
Okay. Jeremy?
I mean, I don't know what specific topic we're supposed to. I have some very big general questions.
We are constantly educated on this show.
The whole neural networking thing is fascinates me.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
our brain is so complex. I've been under the impression that the whole quantum computing thing is going to be necessary to really properly build like a human level neural network. Is that correct according to your knowledge?
Yes. So the more, so if we really want to get close to human brain, the way that they function and filter and learn and relearn, it's very complicated and requires a lot of computational resources if we want to exactly implement that. So the bottlenecks are the hardware side um, running the hardware that can excel at that level, and not only the speed but also the efficiency. And the quantum physics really helps on that side.
Hmm.
Right, right.
Okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I do not have a very mathematical, scientific mind. So this stuff
I
is
do
like,
have another question.
whoa, ask another question. Let's see if you can.
How
I'm,
close are we to Skynet, and when do the Terminators show up? That's my other question. The singularity, though, that's really would be the real life kind of not silly way of asking about it. The whole singularity thing where AI does become truly sentient in learning. Do you think we're on track for that? Do you think that's an attainable thing, attainable soon?
I think so, but I would like the whole society to be really mindful about it. I think that while AI can be really in autopilot, we should not let that to be in autopilot for so many different reasons. But I think that since we now started it, we should keep building that to stay ahead of the game because it will get into the hands of people who are not going to use it in a good way. And the only way to prevent that is just to be stay ahead of the game. And I think that's what the whole community in the technology and also the application side are doing. And I think that's the right move. And I think we are, before that, people will ask, where do you think we would be in 5 years? And I think we cannot 5 years anymore. We cannot say 5 years anymore. We should have, say, like 2 years or even 1 year. It's
wow.
Yeah.
increasingly
Where are we in
fast.
6 months? Yeah.
Mhm.
It's increasingly evolving really fast.
Well, let's take this great foundation and this background of knowing who you are. Clearly, your very technical capabilities that I'm like not even remotely understanding. Not gonna lie. I'm a
Thank you.
marketer. I'm a writer. I'm a communicator. I cannot do these things. And so I love having folks like you on Zara who bring a completely different perspective and world, really, in this tech and AI and it's like it's overwhelming. So with all of this amazing experience, the Apple, your PhD, all of the things that you have done to this point, um, why Cybele Health? What do you aim to do? Tell us a little bit more about the company, what your goals are, and I'm also really interested in the meaning behind the name. So,
Yeah, sure. Um, so why Cybele Health or why another startup in women's health? Um, I personally had problems and I couldn't find a good solution for it. My second one was 4 months old when we had the pandemic, and my maternity leave ended exactly at that same time. So I had to take care of a 4-year-old, and work from home um, as a tech lead, like cross-functional. It was not easy. It was really challenging. And as a researcher, I was looking into tools and resources that help me stay up to the game and manage everything. And that's the point where I faced lots of inefficiencies in the system. And there were a couple of reasons for that. The first one was one size fits all approach of the healthcare system. No matter where you're coming from, no matter what your circumstances, everybody's been seen through the same lens, been treated with the same program or protocol or the guideline. And we are expecting everybody to get the same result, which is obviously not possible because we are different in so many different levels. We are culturally different, we are biologically different, our genes are different, our culture is different, our behavior is different. Um, you know, so many different things are different for us. But even in a larger scale, women are different than men. You cannot expect a woman to get the same result. You cannot expect a postpartum woman to get the same result as a woman who is not in that window of maternity. So And tapping back into my experience of PhD, I knew that, we can definitely solve at least this problem with bringing more personalization. Maybe before that, technology was not at that stage, but we were at the right time to solve the very important problem. So I started looking deeper into startups that are doing that. And then that was the other thing that most of the startups that were using AI were like kind of if it was within the space of women's health specifically, were for a very, I would say, for a lack of better term, disease specific, like ovarian cancer, breast cancer, like those things that are specific to a woman's body. Um, what my problem was, what the problem I had was that I didn't thankfully had any of those. I just wanted something to help me maintain my life and stay on top of the game, like being more productive and being more efficient and, having more clarity and all of that. So mostly on the side of managing health and staying proactive, not just symptom management, right? This is another area where most of the companies are doing. Or even the healthcare, they wait until you have a problem and it becomes so serious. You go to your doctor or provider, you start like finding a solution, and then all there is that they help you to manage those symptoms. They don't get to the bottom of it, which is another field in healthcare. It's called function health, functional medicine. Like they try to get to the bottom of the root cause and really fix the root cause instead of helping you manage your symptoms. So yeah, so that was the idea that through building healthier life habits and routines and changing your routines, starting from the way that you wake up in every morning, you know that there are so many great podcasts and movement around do not, turn on, go to your phone first thing in the morning, right? That's the simple thing, which really impacts because it impacts your hormonal levels, your stress, what do you eat in the morning? How do you exercise in the morning? And to set a really good morning, it starts the night before. How well was your sleep? And then, so it's like kind of a circle and a chain that everything is really connected to each other, specifically for women, because we go through so many hormonal changes, starting from puberty and menstrual cycle all the way to, that window of having a child, bringing on a family and all of that, all the way to the premenopause and menopause. Everything really goes back into how healthy is your life habits. And they really impact on you. There are lots of studies that has recently published and shown that if women start opting on a healthier lifestyle as early as their 30s, all the symptoms of menopause is like significantly can be improved and reduced up to 85%. And this is a very like big number. 85% is a very big number. It has so many impacts at so many levels on financial side, on the a workload on the healthcare, on women's life, everything.
So this
And
is
I couldn't
really
find a
I'm sorry, a preventative approach to
preventative
kind of
approach.
more
Yes,
holistic uh, women's health care, right? Like, or care for yourself,
exactly.
quite honestly.
Right,
Yeah, as
right.
you were talking, I was thinking, and you mentioned AI too, because I want to definitely dive into that a little bit more, the role of AI and what you're
Mm-hmm,
doing.
mm-hmm,
Um, because it's like, cancer, right? That's like an acute issue.
mm-hmm.
So it's like point in time, right? Like, and then you're all of a sudden having to deal with all of the things that go along with having a cancer diagnosis. So this is really kind of just in general, keeping you well, um, in different ways
Yes,
and using AI as part of the Cybele Health platform to achieve kind of
yes,
like optimal wellness. Is that kind of the big goal?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but this is very complicated, right? How do you change your habit and how do you build a healthy life habit, right?
Mhm.
Especially when it becomes to health. You need also a healthcare provider to teach you or to guide you through that process. This is another bottleneck in the healthcare system that, you go to your provider, the visits don't last that long. It's 10, 15, at most like 20 minutes. There is no way your provider get a better understanding, a deep understanding on
Mhm.
who you are, where you are standing in the spectrum, and how he or she can provide you a personalized care. But with the AI, we can ingest all of that information. All of us have so many wearables, have phone, have access. We are logging lots of information directly or indirectly, which we can be ingested with the AI. We can analyze it, provide a very good summaries that's easy to read and understand from the healthcare perspective, and help them to have a 360 view of you as a patient or a client so they can stay connected with you. The other thing that happened last year was that from one session to the next session, and by session I mean patient healthcare visits, from one visit to the next one, there is a gap. And as they say, health happens between visits. It's all on the shoulder of patients or clients to how well they can take that advice and follow that routine and what's going to be the outcome, right? There is no supervision in between sessions, and that gap really impacts the outcome of healthcare. So last year, insurance policies, including Medicare and Medi-Cal, acknowledged that need and created a separate sector for reimbursement for specifically, they call it digital between session follow-ups. And that was a great market for us as a company to start tapping into it. It's a new market. It's $1 billion industry. It has very high potential from the investment side to the impact side. So Cybele Health is trying to close the gap of between sessions, specifically on women's health, because again, with the goal of being more personalized, we really want to, whatever AI we are developing, be really efficient and fine-tuned and personalized towards a woman's body and needs. And help providers to stick with you 24/7 and you stay with them 24/7. So with that, closing the gap, and hopefully we can increase the outcome of healthcare.
So, in terms of the app or the platform, what is the most appropriate way to describe it? Do you call it an app
It
or
is
platform or
mostly,
both?
yeah. So it is a platform, but
Okay.
how you are surface it is an app, right? So the way that
Okay.
you interact with it as a patient, you
Okay.
install it on your phone. It's an app, but the whole thing is really a big platform.
So, like, kind of explain, right? Like, if I was part of Cybele Health, right? Like I enrolled, if that's the right term,
Yeah.
to utilize the app and the platform and all of the kind of the benefits. Like what happens? Can you kind of like walk us through
hmm
what that experience might look and feel like? And obviously
hmm
AI playing a role in that, pulling the data, from
hmm
all these different places, like you were talking about wearables, your phone, your maybe even your own doctor. um, yeah, if you could talk
Sure.
a little bit about that, that would be helpful. That I can walk us through the experience.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So I start with saying that it's very important, especially in the health, to enable providers to provide a better health. And by providers, I mean healthcare providers, your doctors from all the spectrum. Um, so one part of helping you to stay ahead of the game and being more proactive is to educate you about healthcare. There are so many misinformation out there, especially in the field of women's health. There are so many misinformation about what does it mean to be healthy, what does it mean to be normal versus abnormal or out of the range. So patient education is also one sector of that category that insurance policies just created, right? So if providers educate patients, and they started with diabetes because it's a very important, and women get impacted a lot with that, but they are like adding more, like next is mental health and so many different sections and topics. But one is patient education, which is currently our MVP that we launched in December. So we created a platform that's curated by highly accredited and verified healthcare providers who have information about it, not just any influencer. Um, so they create content as free posts or paid online courses and help you to educate yourself as a patient in whatever domain of health that you are interested or dealing with at the moment. So the provider goes into our platform, creates that content, and then you as a patient can also log into the same platform in the browser or in the app, and you can educate yourself. You know that it's coming from your provider. It's like having another session, but pay less and save time. You do that with everyone. You're using his brain. The other thing that we are doing, so health and healthcare and wellness has 7 different pillars, right? It's physical health, emotional health, mental health, social health, financial health, nutrition, and exercise and activities. And with the focus on women between age of 25 and 55, 85%, 90% of those are in the job market within that time frame at some point. So we are focusing on having a holistic approach of health, how nutrition impacts you, how activities impacts you, how your financial health impacts you, how your mental health, really having holistic approach of health. So we are building pillar by pillar. The first pillar, which our MVP is currently built upon it, is mental health. So you can journal your thoughts and emotions and feelings through our smart journaling feature. You can track your menstrual cycle. You can track your hormonals in a way that if you are dealing with a specific hormonal issue or you're taking any specific hormonal medication, and then through that we grab all the information from you, and then we create summaries. We send that to your provider, whether this is your mental health therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist, or you're just physician's family doctor, and from one visit to the next visit, they can send you guide, if they need it. If they needed to have a follow-up, they can send you a message and ask you to adjust your routines, and then we can submit a claim to the insurance. So we are building this whole process, streamline that. Now, why this is important? Because before this, the communication between patient and provider was offline, either in the messaging or emailing, or it was not efficient, right? And then the other problem was that for providers to summarize that and document that and submit the claim to the insurance, again, it was very inefficient, because they had to take a screenshot or copy, and so many of the time, because it was not according to their guidelines, those claims get rejected and canceled. And that was the whole frustration in the submitting claim. And that's the main reason that so many of the providers, mental health providers, I know, at least in the California or North Cal, they don't work with insurance anymore because of that. So we are using AI to streamline the whole process and make sure that your claim gets submitted and get approved. And then it reduces the burden from the patient side, from the mental health side. And because it is preventive, at the end, it's going to save insurance a lot of money too. And that's why insurances are investing in that.
So do providers themselves, so I'm thinking like I would enroll in this as a patient, right? But like let's say, and I'm, here in Arizona and I see, so and so Dr.
Mhm.
Carr back here for my therapist. How would they engage with the platform? Would they need to be like part of a network, or do I just say, "Hey, I'm journaling, I'm tracking all this stuff in here."
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
how do they get engaged with the app, or maybe how do I get my own doctor, kind of, eh, you know, enrolled
Yes.
or engaged with this?
That's a great question. So we start with the doctor. So we are B2B
Oh,
kind of business. We are B2B2C. So we start onboarding all the doctors or providers by building relationships with the organization. So we are starting building relationships with California Psychologists Association. And then through them, and we are building relationships with local communities of therapists, LMFTs, social
mhm.
workers. And through them, we onboard providers, and then through providers, they onboard their patients. Um,
Oh, it's the other
and
way
then that's,
around. Got it. Okay,
yes.
so you're going via the providers and then to the patients. Okay, we hear, from everyone we meet with, it's all different, right? You just never know.
So you build a
Yeah.
platform of providers and then make it available to the patients.
Yes.
It's basically
Yes.
what it is
Because the idea
through an
is to
app.
enable providers to have to stay connected with their patients.
Hmm.
So yeah, we start with providers. And
Okay.
then our
So,
next move is to give that as a benefit package, start partnering with companies so
mhm.
they can provide that as their benefit package to their employees. So if you are a woman at a workplace, your
Hmm.
provider is still not in our platform, but your company supports us, you can stay on board, and then through you, we get your provider also on board. This is our
Ah,
next phase.
Interesting.
smart. So it becomes a workplace benefit. So then you're
Mhm.
looking at companies with lots of women healthcare. Hello, looking at you. Lots of women in healthcare. I've been in the business for so long. It's like you look at like the demographic makeup of all the people I work with, it's like 60 to 70% women. So,
Yes.
wow. Okay, so you start with the providers and then it becomes a tool for the provider to help with that in between digital
Mhm.
healthcare, and
Mhm.
then the patient gets engaged with the app, you're journaling, you're tracking, and so then that's being fed to the provider. So next time I go in to talk to them, they're like, oh, well, I see everything. Well, hopefully, right, you're tracking.
Yes.
I see everything you've been tracking here. This tells me this tells me that, right? So that
Exactly.
is that kind of.
Specifically, yes, specifically for your mental health providers, it
Uh-huh.
enables them to manage and plan their session in a more efficient way. So I'll tell you a personal experience. Um, Back in 2021-22, I was promoted to a tech lead. So I was directly working with our director, with our VP, and cross-functional across Apple because the work that I was working with, our customers were other teams across Apple. So you could imagine that the level of stress and just deliverables was so high. So I was in a very active like weekly sessions with my therapist. And then she suggested me to do journaling, and I started doing journaling. I had a very important meetings with execs. I was very overwhelmed. I was very sleep deprived for my 2 year old, back then. Um, so I sent her a message, and then she replied back that this is called meeting anxiety, and it is a very specific domain in psychology that we are treating. And she sent me some links to review and some materials to read before. She said that we can set up another meeting if you want, but in the meantime, this is the things that you can educate yourself. That's the kind of thing that we're building at Cybele Health. So we are enabling providers because before that, I would write pages and pages. I like writing, and I'm very old-fashioned. I write paper and pen. So I would write pages and pages of my diaries and journals, and there was no way for her to just sit through there and go through all of that. So what we do with AI is to read all of that, create a summary, highlight the big main points, give that to the providers, and she's like, okay, so that 10 pages of journals were about meeting anxiety. And this is
Ah,
what you need to do. And this is a big topic. It's not only me who has meeting anxiety. So she would go ahead and create a course or some educational material within our platform about meeting anxiety. And as a woman, how you can specifically approach that. Because again, there are so many stressors around us in the workplace, at home, in the society, with relationships, with our friends, with our family, right? How we approach and how we react to those stressors goes back to our personality, to our individuality, right? So we are all different. So that's why it's really important to personalize it as much as possible. Women react
mhm,
to to things differently than how men do, right?
mhm,
And another part of that is that again, your nutrition. How do you plan your meals? What do you eat? How do you plan your exercise and activities, which are our next pillars? Like within the app, you can also journal your foods. Another thing was that I was using different apps. I don't want to call names, but different apps to track my food and what I'm eating, right? And it was very tedious. I had to either select a predefined menu, or if it was not in the menu, I have to enter every single ingredient of my food. I had to do that again and again. Um,
that's way too much
but
work.
Yeah.
it was too
Not a
much
lot of
work.
people are going to keep
I
up
was
with that.
dealing with
Yeah,
10 different apps to
yeah.
track my water, how much water I'm drinking, how much how am I breathing? How am I walking? What am I eating? All of that. So we are making that very easy. Like take a picture of your dish and we will figure out everything.
All
And
within the
we'll create
Cybele
summary.
app.
Yes,
Wow.
this is our next
Okay.
phase. This is our next release.
Okay.
But we will send that to if you're working with a dietitian or nutritionist, we will send that to your nutritionist, or we'll send that to your provider. And all of those people in the health industry has some background about how things should plan. The other important part of it is that if you're menstruating, you should really plan your nutrition and your activity according to the phase of your cycle, because our hormones are like this, right? If you are a woman and you want to like stay ahead of the game, you should also plan based on your highs and lows of your hormones. If your routines are constantly, you know, the same, no matter where your hormones are, it means that you're constantly fighting against your highs and lows of your hormones, and that's no wonder why it's not efficient. Um, so that's the other important part of it.
Okay. All right. This all makes sense to me now. Jeremy, I know you have a question.
I do. I'm wondering how deep the AI side of this goes. You being the PhD in AI and all that. It does does this your system kind of like conglomerate the data and actually start coming up with new data sets, maybe assisting with new forms of treatment, new diagnoses based on different things that maybe we didn't realize before because the data had never been really collected that way?
That's a very great question. Yes. One of the bottlenecks of the current healthcare systems and is that women um, has not been included in so many of the trials before. And that's why the outcomes of the specific routine or procedure for a woman is so different than men. That was one of the big topics on the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference just the last week, that FDA started to bring more regulations on and standards on how, at which level and which percentage women should be included in the trial. So with the data that we were able to collect and analyze, this will open a very big window and opportunity for all the research-based, companies and institutions to tap on this great data and start creating better healthcare plans and systems specifically for women. And that's one of my dreams that I hope comes true one day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great application because then you're gathering the data without actually having to run separate trials. It's just
Yes.
gathering itself in real time. That's a much more efficient way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I feel like we keep, this is like a constant theme, and so many of the people that we've been meeting with here on Healthcare Uprising is the lack of women being included in like medical trials and all of this. I mean, it's been kind of alarming, quite honestly, how we, women as a like a legit species have been left out of
Yes.
really important parts of like figuring out pharmaceuticals and procedures and things that actually are done on us or given to us, but not tested on us for some reason. I mean, that's just crazy making to me. But um, I, I'm glad that you're, doing this and
Thank you.
bringing this to the forefront. And to, you mentioned the JP Morgan conference. I know we wanted to talk about that today because you were there last or this past week.
Yes.
Um, yeah, talk about that a little bit because we had Strawberry Health and Guava Health actually who have been on the show already in the last
Mm.
few weeks. They were there as well, so it was really exciting to see all of my new friends, um, friends of the podcast, and now
Yes.
interviewees all be there together. So,
Sure. Fun
yeah, talk
fact, we
about that.
started together. So the founders of Strawberry Health, we've been on the same business class at Stanford.
Oh, the Svetlanas.
Yeah, yes, Svelanas.
Oh, that's
Coming from
cool.
a completely technical background, I took some courses from Stanford Business School just to familiarize myself with how business goes. But yeah, so JP Morgan, it was really fascinating. It was my first time attending this, the whole conference set, I would say. But there were a couple of things that really stood up. One was that there were so many events around women's health this year, which was really good. So it kicked off on Sunday with CIRSE conference. That's specifically around FDA regulations, and they had a complete separate, like 2 hour session around women's health and people from FDA that talk about it, how they are mandating, creating new policies around they should include women in any trials, or raising really the bar high about when it comes to women's health, dedicating separate grants and encouraging the whole community to research more on that, invest more on that. That was one part of it. The other part of it, which was really a highlight for me, was the WAMP report, which is Women Health Access Matters, by the legendary Carol Lee. The report just released during the week by Forbes. They dedicated a very long article about that, which highlights women health is not a niche. Unfortunately, in the investment side, as a founder, when you go talk to investors, they consider women's health as a niche. So they created a very long report backed by data and statistics that shows that this is half a population are women. It's not a niche, and how that health and outcomes of it on the all healthcare ecosystem really has great impact on the financial side, on the human side, all the way. So that was really great to see that.
We're
And so
half the
many,
population. We're not a
I know.
niche.
I'm pretty sure you're over half the
I
population. That
mean,
was the thing.
isn't that
The
crazy though?
1%, yes, was that, yes.
To think that
And
women's
then
health is a niche thing. Like, all right, there's niches within women's health for like maybe, certain like ethnic or cultural backgrounds. Like, okay, now we're talking niche or like I'm sorry. This is
I know.
yeah,
I don't
Heather's
want to start because
That's a
if I
different
start, I cannot
conversation.
stop. But
I
yes,
should have been there.
On that point,
exactly.
I have a general question for both of you. Do you think that maybe because women were ignored by the healthcare industry for so long, that that's now why it's such a women-heavy industry? That two-thirds of the industry are women because they're sick of being ignored by that industry, so they became the industry?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Because that to me
Yeah, I
explains it.
agree.
That explains
I
why most of
agree.
the people on this
Right.
podcast are women. I was asking Heather, why are all our guests women? And she's like, that's just the industry, man.
Because
You're gonna have
men,
to
It
get
is.
used to it.
Yeah.
maybe men have, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to, it's definitely comes. So most of the companies started with a problem that nobody realized to solve it or didn't care to solve it.
Hmm.
And that's no wonder why when we talk about women's health, a huge percentage of the founders or one of the founders is a woman, because it's really frustration about a problem that we are experiencing and there is no good solution for it. And that was my personal experience. And I know that lots of other founders in the domain had shared the same experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's great. Take the power back, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
You're in the
but I
right
really,
place. Yeah.
but I really would like to take a moment and say that it's not just a woman's problem, it's our family problem, because women
Mhm.
are at the core of each family and each of us have a family, right? If the woman in the family, whether this is a mom, this is a daughter, this is a wife, has a health problem that impacts all of us as a family at some level. And I think that one of the key things that we should all focus on it if we want to make any improvement is to change that mindset. And it starts with all of us as an individual to talk about it at the dinner table, that what do we think about it, and there is a bias, obviously, that started, I don't know when, but if you want to change the bias, the only way is to, like, culturally doing more advertising about it, talking more about it, helping in any way we can. If we are thinking about investment, invest on that. And it doesn't have to be big. We can start small, just promoting and helping people who start this movement, because at the end of the day, it's going to impact the whole family and all of us, no matter where we are. And I think it's really a cultural mindset that needs to be shifted.
Yeah, I think it's happening. I sometimes I think, gosh, I'm just in my little world, right? Like I'm seeing this all happening. Is everybody else seeing this happening? Hashtag
Yeah,
femtech, right? Like my
yeah,
LinkedIn post that went kind of mini viral and brought me to you and
right.
Svetlana and Isabel with Guava Health, all these amazing women doing really cool stuff in the women's health space. Like, thank God for that post. Because now like my world has been opened up to it. And I was already, big into women's advocacy
Mhm.
for many years, but I think it is getting a little bit more mainstream. And we are talking,
It
I'm
is.
talking about it at the dinner
Yes.
table. My poor children. I have two boys. So
That's
I'm
very
like,
important. Actually,
sorry,
you
your
are at
mom's
the
talking
front
about
row
it.
because when you educate your boys, they are going to educate like their classmates, and they are the next generation. So
Yeah,
they are going to be better allies to women when they grow
right.
up. I just keep saying that. That's really great. I was very optimistic, especially in the past week in the JP Morgan, to see so many movements. But
Hmm.
what I really would like to see is that the men start the conversation about that. That's where I think I call it a really great success.
Hmm.
When we hear the voice coming from men, not just the woman, but all of us.
Jeremy, you have your orders.
I'm a little proud of myself right now. I'm here. I'm here for
I
it. I really
know
am.
you're here.
That's
He's
great.
part
I'm
of it.
totally here for it.
So I think
I've been petitioning for the rise of the matriarchy for like a decade now, just in general. So yeah, let's do it healthcare first, and then we'll go from there.
yeah. I mean, it's a big part of it, right? Like healthcare,
That's
mental health,
great.
physical health, whatever it
Sure.
is. I mean, it's like it's spinning around us at all times. It's such a huge part of who we are, how we make decisions, how we take care of our families, all of these, how we show up
Exactly.
at work. It really is kind of this like centripetal force to a
Hmm.
degree. And if we're not talking about it and doing something about it, then it's
Yeah,
we are going
Yeah.
to spin off into the ether. So
yeah.
here we are.
Sure.
Thanks
Yeah.
for JP Morgan Chase for having this conference. I'm really happy to hear that women's health was at the forefront of that event. Like women's health is having its moment right now. Like we're
It does, yeah. Yeah, it was very optimistic. I was very glad to see all of that. And whenever I went and I start talk conversation, or I was like pitching at an event, so many people, including investors, came and talked and showed interest, which was really good to see. At least, they care to talk about it. That's a really good sign.
yeah, that's great. And I've heard too some statistics about particularly with startups that a lot of women have a hard time, women founders have a much harder time and take a much smaller piece of that financial pie. So maybe the tides are turning there a little bit
I hope so.
or a lot.
Statistics are 2% right now, which is really
Okay,
like,
2%. That's the number that was in my head. Like that's crazy
yes.
low. Like that
It
needs to
is
be
very
like
crazy low, but yeah, but
much
there are
better.
lots of ventures that now are dedicated to women's founder, lots of healthcare ventures that
Yeah.
have dedicated funds to women's health.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the great movements has started. So yeah, so I'm hopeful.
I love it. I love it. So, in terms of Cybele Health, oh, you didn't answer my question. What is the meaning
Sorry.
behind the company name? I could not
Oh
Oh
yeah.
figure
yeah,
it out. Yeah, you
sure,
got to
sure.
tell us.
So it's a little bit of a story. So as it started with my personal experience as a working mother, like going through challenges, I first started to really building something for working mothers. Um, and I was looking for a name that resonates with our target audience. So like motherhood and mother empowerment and all of that. So Cybele I came across Cybele, which is one of the Greek gods, which it's a symbol of motherhood, giving life and energy and everything to the whole surrounding. So, and being very positive and having so much energy around itself. So that's the relationships. And then as I started to talking to more of our prospect users, I realized that so many of women who are thinking about becoming a mother one day, either like freezing their eggs or having difficulties getting pregnant, also have the same set of challenges, but they are not just a mother yet. So I decided to open the umbrella and have a more broader kind of a perspective on how our target audience are, and we. rebranded as professional women. So now we are targeting professional women who may or may not be a mother, but they are a job force. They have so many things at their plates at the same time, and providers who are there to support them in their healthcare. But yeah, that was the story behind the name Cybele.
I love that. I love that it was a Greek mythological goddess.
Yes,
Man,
A mother goddess kind of thing.
that's
yes.
awesome. I'm a little ashamed of myself. I didn't know because I have an art history degree and I studied Greek
Yeah.
Greek art. That was one of my areas of expertise. It's been a little while,
You
not
could
gonna
tell them
lie.
how long ago college was, but that just
20,
gets you in a different barrel of trouble.
25 years. Yikes. Um, wow. Well, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I've been,
Sure.
since I first found out about you and we've met, I've been meaning to ask you that question and I decided I'm going to wait until you come on the show so we can learn about the origins of that name. And I'm really glad that I waited because I really love that. That's
Thank you.
really beautiful. I
Thank
love
you.
it. Um, so we're as we're kind of wrapping up here, I tell us where is Cybele Health at in kind of its rollout and kind of the timeline, what's coming down the line so that we can kind of, for anyone listening, if you're a provider, if you're an employer, you're our HR benefits people, brokers, pay attention. You can bring these into your clients, into your companies for your people. Like, what's kind of the timeline where are things at right now so that we can know when to reach out if the time is now or is the time in 3 months? So,
Sure, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking that. So we are very early stage in the startup community. We're called pre-seed. We have a working prototype as a web app, which you can also install it in your phone as a mobile app. So we started with mental health, as I said before. So if you're in mental health, you are more than welcome to give it a try. You can go to apps.cybelehealth.com and register as a provider. We will verify your credential and approve your membership. It's totally free. Then you can start onboarding your patients. They will go the same way to the same platform, but register as a member. It's also free for them. And you can start as a provider, you can start by creating educational materials. You can decide whether you want to serve it as a free or as a paid. Your patients or everybody else in our platform can learn more about your knowledge and expertise about where you want to have to share. If you are on the insurance and brokers or payers, I would love to talk to you. That's one of my focus areas these days. And that was one of the beauty of the JP Morgan conference that I made so many connections. So on our to-do list, we want to make that all the payments that patient have to pay, whether this is a paid course or, the journaling that they have to pay for it. They can get the reimbursement from insurance, either pay it as their FSA or get the reimbursement from insurance. So that's one of my to-do list and top priority. If you're an investor, we are raising investment. So you can find me, email me, zara@cybelehealth.com. Yeah, the companies we would love to talk and start a collaboration and see what you want to serve to your employees. That's a great opportunity. We are probably not immediately at that stage, but 6 months from now, hopefully by
okay,
end of this year, we will be.
great.
I,
So,
I like that a lot of the interviews we're doing are for these cool new products
yeah,
that they're getting insurance companies to pay for.
yes.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part. Like stuff
yeah,
you never would have thought an insurance company would pay for. You guys are getting
yeah.
them to pay for this stuff. It's
Mhm,
great. Like that to me is the biggest movement forward going on now. Like with our art pharmacy,
mhm.
they got insurance
Hmm.
companies paying for like tickets to museums for people to
Hmm.
for their depression and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah,
Like what
That's
a
great.
great
Yeah,
concept. And the preventative stuff, and that's what it is the insurance companies are finally getting wise to, hey, if we pay for the preventative stuff, we'll save a lot of money.
yeah,
And when an insurance company sees money, they're going to go for it. So like show them how profitable it can be. We can actually get them to cover all this cool stuff. I love
yeah,
that. Like that to me is the biggest like revolution in the uprising that we're doing here so far, honestly. So
Yeah.
yeah, power to you on that. I hope that you can get on all the benefits packages everywhere people want it.
Cybele Health
Thank
is
you.
a company to watch. So we're going to pay attention and
How do you spell Cybele?
Cybele.
Just
That's
one
correct.
L?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that we put all of your contact information in our show notes and make sure that everyone has a way to get a hold of you. Um, so well, like I said, we're gonna watch you and see what happens here. And in the
Thank you.
meantime, like folks, get on the train
Yeah.
because this is coming. And, AI, that's a huge part of it. So really exciting. I think what I love about what you're doing is the role of AI in all of this. And this is the good part of AI because some people are like, oh my God, I don't know. AI kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like, or is it going to be too intrusive? Does it feel too big brother? All that kind of thing. But there's so much good that AI can do, particularly in the healthcare space that I know I've already been seeing it. Like, outside of using like Chat GBT, right? Like that's super cool, right? That's great for certain people. Like me, I'm a writer.
Mhm.
But like AI in the clinical setting and what it can do with the data that is in a bazillion different places, right? And like pulling it all together, because that's been part of the problem in healthcare is that we have little pieces of data about, who we are, physically, mentally, all of these things in so many different places. It's like the bots need to go out there and pull it into a one singular place. Cybele Health is part of that solution, I think, right? So,
Hmm.
Yes. And I want to add that, especially with the rise of AI, there are so many doubts and concerns about how is data being distributed. I would like to mention that any AI product that you're using, make sure that your data is in your control, because that can get distributed in the channels that you don't want to be distributed. And this is our top priority. We are HIPAA compliance, and every data you get to choose whether you want your provider to see that or not. And this is our top priority because even as a patient, sometimes we are collecting information that you may or may not want your provider to have access to, and that's completely in your control. So the whole between session follow-ups is initiated by the patient in our app. So the patient gets to decide whether he or she wants the provider to see the data and and provide a feedback or not. And I think that's one of the important aspects of any AI controlled tools or feature that you're using should be mindful about it. But there are so many good things about it, in the era of AI that can be very beneficial in terms of increasing efficiency, reducing the time and cost, and just preventing humans' error. I think it's one of the main aspects of utilizing AI, specifically in healthcare, because as human, we all can, we all, get have human error. Is very real, and it's not preventable to the 0%. I've heard so many stories that, unfortunately, nurses or providers make a mistake, just human error. And then the impact on human is a lot, could be a lot. So the AI can be here to have that sanity check to prevent that. And it's going to be really great in preventive care. But at the same time, as an AI scientist, I wouldn't do that at the auto control or autopilot, because one bottlenecks of the Gen AI and deep learning and all of these AI agents is that they cannot say that I don't know. As a human, you can say that I don't know, but in AI, it just gives you a result no matter what. So these days, they are working on that, give some confidence about that result, so at least the user knows that. How should they trust it? And I think that's another technical subject, but yeah.
So it's important to remember, really, in the end, that AI is a very useful tool, but we shouldn't want to like let it be in charge. Like you need the provider to be in charge using the AI as a tool.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
And that way we never have Skynet and Terminators and stuff. That's a good idea. It's a good
Yes,
idea.
exactly. You should know your truth. So I teach AI in Santa Cruz University, and with the rise of AI and Gen AI, the Chat GPT, and creating this code created like agent, we were drawing an example to see how we can rely on an AI agent to create software. So we started with a very simple, coding activity with a bug inside the code. It couldn't, so it identified the bug, but the solution was not the right solution. And what happens is that after 10 times, we were repeatedly the AI was providing a solution which didn't resolve the bug. So my point going through the activity with the student was that you should know your truth. You should still study and understand CS basics because this is the example. It cannot say, I don't know. You should still know your truth.
Yeah.
It's still important to study your subject. And you can use your AI to improve and speed up your process, but you should still know your truth.
In layman's terms, it's a phrase I like to use these days. Be smarter than your phone.
Yeah.
Actually,
Don't let your phone think for you. Be the smart one in that relationship.
it's a great analogy.
Yeah, we should definitely share that with the teenagers of the universe. They
Yeah.
could probably use that piece of advice more than anyone.
I,
Uh,
as a longtime taxi driver, I can tell you there are a lot of people in the next generation that don't know their own address, don't know their own phone number, because they let the phone remember it for them. It's
yeah,
not a good way to go through life.
yeah, no, no. Well, I know you shared this a few minutes ago, but really quick, just to kind of put a bookend on our interview with you today, will you share with us the best way to find you online, social media, connect with you on LinkedIn, your email address, anything like that that you want to share so that anyone listening can get in touch and or get started with you?
Sure, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn, not so much on other platforms. So, LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn with Zara Haji Hashemi or with Cybele Health. Um, my email is zara@Cybele Health. And yeah, I think these two are the best ones.
And we'll
Great.
put all that in the show notes too, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been absolutely another fascinating, mind-blowing episode. I learned so much from all the amazing people that I get to talk to, that we get to talk to. And truthfully, sometimes I go into these and I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to learn or find out. And typically 99% of the time, I'm surprised. So I'm definitely surprised. And it's just it's great. I love what you're doing in the healthcare space for women because we need to shout it from the mountaintops because we are here and we are not a niche. You listen to that,
Exactly.
universe. We are not a niche. We are a massive category of people.
You're taking over the industry now. So
Yeah, it's huge. And I'm so excited for you and what's to come, and that you're a part of this huge shift in what's happening. So
and as someone who's seen all the Terminator movies at least twice, I thank you for making me a little less afraid of AI. I do
Thank you so
appreciate
much
that.
for having me.
great.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that your listeners also learned something new today. If
Yeah.
you are an investor, I really want to say that invest in women, no matter what they are doing. It's really good to bring diversity into the table in your investment portfolio, in the work that you are doing, and we are resilient, and that's the main important factor for somebody who is building something new is to be resilient, and women are resilient.
Absolutely.
All
That's
right.
us. Awesome. All right.
That's a
Thank
That's
great
you.
spot to leave off on.
it
Thank,
is.
thank you very much, Zara. We
Okay.
appreciate you coming in. And there we go. Quite the conversation with the AI genius and Zara there from Cybele Health. Uh, I will say I do feel a little better about things on the AI side of my thinking. But my main takeaway is I'm just really glad that Zara decided to use her powers only for good. Because if she went to the dark side, we might be in trouble. But what are the actual main takeaways from our talk there, Heather?
Honestly, I think one of the best parts of this show and what we're doing here and what this particular interview, I believe, brought to light again is the growing and continual focus on women's health in the healthcare universe. And, Cybele Health being a part of that, what Zara is doing, and particularly using AI and all that, because we haven't yet met anyone whose product or program was specifically talking about the role of AI, not saying that it hasn't been a part of some of the other the other, you know, apps and whatnot that we've been meeting, the people that we've been meeting that represent those apps and technology, but like she's a legit AI scientist and like doing some, crazy stuff there behind the old curtain. With little
Oh
Wizard of
yeah,
Oz
yeah.
reference there.
Building an artificial brain is real deal stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So, taking the AI, which is, this huge exploding thing, and then women's health, putting it together and building this platform, and this app for women to be proactive about their care too. And I think that's another really important takeaway. And we see this trend in the healthcare industry is that moving away from being reactive care into more preventative care or value-based care, that comes up a lot too. Value-based care is a little bit becoming more of a household term, in the healthcare industry. But at least like overall, at we're looking at healthcare in a different lens. And it's not like, oh, let me run and fix that problem. It's more, hey, let's get ahead of that and make sure that that problem doesn't happen. So it's good to see that there's another company, another person who is using her good powers
Yeah,
to be a part of that, getting on that train because
yeah.
that's where we need to be. So
She's like a real life Jedi, that one. Knowing how to create new intelligences.
yeah,
Like that's very like new world wizarding right there. You know what I mean? It's the new magic in my mind.
yeah,
Because how many people know how that stuff actually works? Like five, maybe
yeah,
five people.
exactly. It's definitely not us.
It's definitely not anyone in this row, I tell you what.
No,
That's why we just sit at the microphones and ask these people about it,
that's right.
because that's what we're good at.
Yeah. So Cybele Health, another,
There you go.
addition to the healthcare innovation universe
Yeah,
and forwarding women's healthcare. So I can get behind that all day long. So I might
cool.
I might have gotten a little passionate in this
It's good.
in this episode.
It's
So
always good when we're excited to be here. Hopefully, it makes everybody else excited as well.
oh yeah,
And if you're excited about what you just heard or saw, please take a minute to hit all those happy little fun buttons on whatever platform you're on, the likes and subscribes and shares. We particularly like auto download and ratings and reviews. Super helpful, not only for the algorithm, but for letting us know how we're doing, what you like, what you don't about what we're doing. So search us on YouTube at Healthcare Uprising and you will find our video versions. We also have videos on Patreon, patreon.com/healthcare uprising, where you can join for as little as $1 a month. We do have higher tiers if you are interested in, getting directly involved in supporting the uprising that way. If not, just hit those buttons, man. That's really the big thing for us these days. Download the episodes as soon as they come out. That's the biggest thing you can do for us, actually. And what else? Where can they find us there, Heather?
you can also find us online at healthcareuprising.com and all the social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Just search us by Healthcare Uprising Podcast, and you will find us out there. We share highlight reels, we share the episodes, a lot of activity out on the platform. So it'll keep you kind of updated as to when our episodes are launched and give you a little sneak peeks in the meantime. Also, if you're a founder, co-founder, somebody involved in a healthcare startup, and you are doing something awesome and innovative in healthcare, and you want to talk to us and share what you're doing with the world, give us a shout via email, healthcareuprising@gmail.com, and we'd love to bring you on the show. Also, for you, all you humans out there, this show would not be anything without you and your stories because healthcare is about people. So, if you have a story, good, bad, or otherwise, we'd love to have you on as well to share your healthcare experience with us. Also, shoot us an email, healthcareuprising@gmail.com. And I think that'll do it for today, Jeremy. So,
Sounds like.
with that, I will leave you with my parting words. Keep looking for the good in the world. Sometimes it's where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.
Shut up!